Thank you for joining us on Let the Prophet Speak. I am so elated this morning to have a little songbird that I gave birth to, Dr-Vernette-Rosier, singing a song that was written by one of my favorite friends, Candy Staten. Sin doesn't live here anymore. We are in a society where people pay more attention to, give more credence to what's going on around them, who's watching them. They're more people conscious than God conscious. But I want to remind you this morning in the message that God is watching us. There was an old song written many years ago, or sung by Bette Midler, God is watching us from a distance. Well, can I tell you, God is watching you up close and personal. And I would like for you to leave in this message understanding that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost and sin doesn't live here anymore. Doesn't live here anymore. Oh, sin doesn't live here anymore. God's temple, it must be holy. I must stay ready to meet Him. Singing doesn't live here anymore. Oh, this body of mine is His temple. His home away from home. I must keep it spotless for Him. We must stay ready for His coming. Swept clean with truth and love. That's what sin, it can't live here anymore. Oh, sin, it doesn't live here anymore. It doesn't live here anymore. God's temple, it must stay holy. I must stay ready to meet Him. Sin, it doesn't live here anymore.
Bitter and sweet water can't flow from the same fountain. How do you get up out of the bed with your boo and come in the presence of the Lord and you feel that, don't you? And you're laying hands on other people and don't feel convicted that you're transferring that lust. But you're not bothered by God. I'm bothered because I love it. I'm I'm bothered because I'm addicted to him. I'm bothered because I live and breathe and crave him. I'm bothered that you don't love the lover of my soul, because if you loved him, you wouldn't want to offend him. If you loved him, you would say to him, God, I don't want to just quote the word and everybody else save it. I'm on my way to hell myself. I got a good gift, but I don't recognize the gift giver. As long as I can get a word for somebody else and correct other people's lives, when he's reaching there and saying, but I want you to love me. And if you love me, I'll give you all the love you need. If you don't reject me, I'll make sure you won't see rejection again. If you don't abandon me, I'll be with you while you be with me. If you don't abandon me, I'll make sure they'll never abandon you. Secret sins, stuff that you've hidden, that you've been doing for a long time. And you're only upset when God tells a human being. I remember at 318 School Avenue, a guy, an officer, leaving our church. And he didn't leave our church because it was wrong or sin. He left the church because the Lord gave me a vision. And in the vision, I saw him hiding behind his house and hitting a crack pipe. And the Lord said, call it out, because I want him to be delivered. Because he lost his military career as an officer. He was a helicopter pilot. He lost his career from drugs. I want to deliver him so that he and his wife could have a happy marriage. He said, call it out. And I described it. And the Lord saying, describe what he's doing so he'll know it's me. And I said, you were hiding behind a house. Wife had already left for church. And you were smoking crack. But the Lord wants to deliver you today what rehab couldn't do. And all your years, God wants to deliver. The anointing will deliver you. He stood there and my husband said, go get him. I didn't have the wisdom then to just leave him in the pew. I just followed instructions. He said, go get him. I went to the guy. You know what he said? I did it, but there's no way you can know it. I was all by myself. You shouldn't have seen that. And I'm never coming back to this church. Angry over what God showed. But God was standing there. I was puzzled. How are you not bothered over what God's looking at? I'm just a human being. I don't have a heaven or hell to put you in. It's God that makes sure you don't die every time you take a hit. It's God that makes sure you didn't have a stroke. It's God that made sure you didn't have a heart attack. And you're more worried about me than God? Do you not know who he is? Or his capabilities?
While Abel brought the best parts of some of the firstborn from his flock, the Lord looked favorably upon Abel and his offering. But he did not look favorably upon Cain and his offering. When Cain became very upset and depressed, the Lord asked Cain, why are you so upset? Why are you so depressed? If you do what is appropriate, you'll be accepted, won't you? But if you don't do what is appropriate, sin is crouching near your doorway, turning toward you. Now as for you, will you take dominion over it? Instead, Cain told his brother Abel, let's go out to the wilderness. When they were outside of the fields, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Later, the Lord asked Cain, where's your brother Abel? I don't know, he answered. Am I my brother's guardian? What did you do? God asked. Your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground.
Stop right there. God was there. God spoke to Cain and said, if you did well, the first murder was around envy and jealousy. It was over, God preferred somebody else over you. The older brother, the younger brother over the older brother. God preferred the younger brother over the older brother. Old man, stand up. You don't want to be old, but you're old today. Younger brother over the older brother. The older brother killed the younger brother. Killed his credibility. Killed his reputation. Killed his marriage. Killed his influence. Killed the younger brother out of the fact that sin And God made it plain. Sin was crouching down and you could resist sin, but sin is bidding you, calling you. And because you gave in to sin, you upset with somebody else that didn't give in to sin. He had a blood sacrifice, a blood offering. He had an offering from the field, first fruit of the field. God liked both sacrifices. Blood sacrifice, animal sacrifice, but God also wanted the first fruit of your increase of your crop and so forth. But the difference in the offerings, the reason he accepted his and didn't accept his, is he came with sin in his. That's what I'm saying. If you do well, you'll be accepted. You are angry, and God read his expression. Did you catch that? Detailed gift. Why do you look downtrodden? Why your face look like that? Because it's sin. You ever looked at somebody and said, why your face look like that? It's sin. They think they all that. No, it's just sin in your life. Because of sin, he said, if you do well, you'll be accepted. And he told him, your problem is sin is crouching down, laying in wait for you, lusting after you, and you're surrendering to it. And his response is to call his brother out, set him up, and kill him. And the reason he killed him is because God is happy with him. Look back over it.
How many of you have ever buried someone that you love? Journey on. How many of you have ever gone through heartbreak? Journey on. How many of you have ever experienced an unwanted divorce? Journey on. How many of you have ever lost a dream? What you dreamed of doing all your life? Journey on. How many of you have ever lost a home through bankruptcy, foreclosure, whatever reason? I say to you, journey on. How many of you have ever lost a job? Either you were laid off or fired. Journey on. Having to reinvent yourself. Yes. Menopause made me reinvent myself. Having children made me reinvent myself. Getting married, I had to reinvent myself. When I stopped teaching and went into full-time ministry, I had to reinvent myself. So life is filled with swift transitions. It's filled with change. So we have to reinvent ourselves and journey on. Journey on. Journey on.
Journey On has been released and is receiving rave reviews from professionals across several fields. Judge Hubert Grimes says Dr-Vernette-Rosier uses her own life story to not only testify of the multiple seasons of pain in her life, but uses her experiences to bring hope and deliverance to the reader who may have had or is experiencing similar issues. Therapist Winona Allen says, as a counselor, I was ecstatic about the clinical research and the high intensity of grief work being done in this book, Journey On. Dr. Dolores Peace says, Dr. Rosier helps us to understand our humanity and the need to address what happens to us as individuals when we grieve. Don't avoid pain. Do the grief work and use this book to help you do the work necessary to grieve in a healthy manner. To place your order, visit our website, vyrosierministries.org, or you can contact us via phone at 810-DREAM-08.
By the time I was preaching, I saw this little Lindsay calls it a backhoe. Thank God for toys. He calls it a backhoe, and it just kept digging and digging. And as it was digging at your soul, it was digging up roots because you were going backwards and going backwards in your mind. And a lot of the issues that you deal with as an adult has to do with childhood issues and the relationship with you and your mom. A lot of battles you had with you and your mom that attacked your self-worth and attacked your self-esteem. And some of those same generational spirits are attacking Michaela. Where's Michaela? Attacking Michaela. God, reach for Michaela because she belongs to you. God, as I reach you, because she belongs to you, God. You branded her when she was yet in her mother's womb. And her mother did the best she could, but out of all the things that she's walked through, she needs healing and Michaela needs healing now. Now it's like two twin sisters that are clashing because they need healing. I thank you that you're the pain killer, Lord. Thank you that you're the mirth between her breasts. There are times she's in so much pain that need to be affirmed, that need to be held. I see these times of your mom pushing you away, and you need a positive affirmation. You needed to be loved. You needed to be held. And the reason the Lord went back there was not for you to be overwhelmed by the pain, but so you get all of the roots out of the ground so it wouldn't grow up again and produce fruit of you knowing who you are. I see just visibly digging all of that up and throwing that away so you don't know who you are. You're yet to walk into the fullness of who you are. You're still living through that teenage little girl. You look like a teenager in the spirit realm, and you're still living through that. And those word curses, we break those word curses that were spoken over our life. All those words that have been imprinted on her emotions now. We rid her of those toxic emotions as you throw them up, God. I thank you for a bright future in her and in Michaela. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Back over. He kills him because God, who made the decision to accept his offering? And they both brought an offering, but God chose the one that was genuine, that wasn't filled with sin. He thought God should be happy with what he was given in spite of all his sin. Don't look at anybody, but I know you know somebody like that. I pay my tithe, and they feel it gives them permission to sin to the max. I give my offerings, it gives them permission to sin to the max. But God, who's watching? Tap somebody now and say, God is watching you. Tap somebody else and say, God is watching you. You don't see him, but he sees you. He says sin is crouching down. This is Adam and Eve's children. The beginning, Adam and Eve. It was Eve that ate fruit and fed Adam, who was passive and ate it and tried. Then he told God, the woman. But what did God say? You can't blame her, but I had a conversation with you. Now they have two sons, an older son and a younger son. Imagine what that does to a parent when your oldest child kills your youngest child. And they kill your youngest child over sin issues. Jealousy, envy. Envy is a sin and jealousy is the act. I can't handle the fact that God favors you more than he favors me. Now, by the time Cain kills Abel, they weren't little kids. They were old men. Adam and Eve were much older. They were in their 60s. I got nervous when I read that. I thought, Jesus, I'm in my 60s. She was in her 60s when she gave birth to Cain. She was in her 70s when she gave birth to Abel. Abraham said, I'm too old for y'all to act like this. But it was over envy and jealousy. And isn't that the same thing that the snake, that the serpent used on Eve? I want you to see the generational sin. What did the serpent say to Eve? The Lord knows that this will make you as wise as him. And you'll be as God. That's why he told you to don't eat off of this tree. So she wanted a position or status, something that God had, rather than be content with what she had. I'm going to end with a quick definition of envy and jealousy, and when Deborah and I tag up again, I'm going to do the other part. And you all don't tell her, because she'll try to skip church and not do it. Envy, painful or resentful awareness of an advantage. You want the same advantage, but you don't want to say to pay the same price. Present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto the Lord. Does the Lord own you, or you think you can buy him off? I gave you tithe, so you owe me. I gave you my offering, so you owe me. I gave you a praise, so you owe me. Jealousy? What is the difference between envy and jealousy? Jealousy is an action, but envy is a sin. Jealousy breeds control. So when you're dealing with jealousy, jealousy is murderous, jealousy is envious. In Black Panther, because the king killed his brother and abandoned his brother's son, the brother's son grew up angry, envious, jealous, murderous. He felt rejection, all of that over the murder. But the reason the king murdered his brother was to protect his right hand, protect him from betrayal. His brother had betrayed him. Betrayal will make you kill. In Black Panther, you see the spirit of betrayal. You see the spirit of jealousy. You see the spirit of murder. You see the spirit of rejection. You see the spirit of abandonment. You see all these spirits that sends him into a rage so that he becomes a villain. But it was all over being left as a little boy. Instead of beating up on children and judging them, why not look and see what they've gone through? And see how you can help them to overcome what they've gone through so that they don't destroy the vision. He wanted a weapon of mass destruction to be released out of his rage, out of his anger. And if there's a king in there, and in the Bible there's a King of Kings and Lord of Lords that was watching Cain and Abel. In Black Panther, there's a king, and he's opposing the throne. So we have to be careful that these generational spirits, what was not dealt with in the generation before, all these secrets don't destroy the family. Can we pray?
What is your testimony, prophet, aside from the miracle that you're carrying?
Well, in January 2017, Pastor Vern was prophesying and doing prophetic insight for 2017. And we were in her living room, and I was doing the camera. And as she was prophesying, of course, she was looking directly at the camera, but it felt like the words that she was saying, she was prophesying directly to me.
And I was thinking in my mind and saying, let Destiny know that this is for her. While I'm looking at the camera, I don't want to go into, Destiny, this word is for you. Let her feel and sense and know that this word is for her.
Right. And so she was talking about property, how in 2017, this is the year for us to get property. This is the year
for the next 4 years, 17, 18, 19, 20.
Right, how Donald Trump was in the White House, he was the real estate king, and this is time for us to invest in real estate. She used Jeremiah, how Jeremiah's cousin had tried to get him to take this land that looks not valuable, and Jeremiah ended up doing it. And so when she was saying that, I was like, the Lord is trying to tell me to get a house. I'm just thinking in my mind, she's talking to the camera, but she talks with so much passion that it just looks like she's prophesying to me. So I said I was going to ask her afterwards. She started talking about children, it's just, so afterwards I was like, Vern, do you think that you're speaking to me? When you were prophesying to the people, she was like, absolutely. I see this house that you and Janae are going to buy, and I see you greatly pregnant, and you telling Janae, we need to move. We don't have enough room in this house. We need to move, and I see that you're like so close, and you're like almost moving while you're pregnant. Look, we had already started to look for a house passively. We were just like, this house is nice, this house is nice, And finally, we found a couple houses that we wanted, and every time we would take Aunt Vern, I would think that this was the house, and she was like, no, this is a strong spirit of racism in this community. Like, just weird things that you wouldn't think about when buying a house. Like, this is not this. When I came up here, I got a headache. And so I'm just like,
And I'm that type of prophet. Everything that I've owned, every child that I've carried, everything in my life, without being religious, I'm always led by God. Whether I may never tell you why I sat here, why I handed you that my particular thing, but I'm always seeing and sensing, though I'm not always saying. And I'm mindful of the spirit realm and what's going on in the spirit realm, riding through a neighborhood or in a particular house, whether I saw an angel or if I saw demons. I know exactly what to do, and I know what belongs, or what I've seen in the spirit realm, whether we've arrived at that in the natural.
And so finally, I found this house. We went to an open house, and I really liked this house. And Janae hated this house. And I was like, oh my Lord, this is the house. In the prophecy, she told me about the neighborhood that we would live in. I've always loved active neighborhoods, like close to parks and with kids running and all this kind of stuff. She told me the kind of neighborhood it would be. It matched the prophecy perfectly, except for the price was higher than Janae and I had talked about. And so I decided one day when Janae was at work and he didn't know anything, I'm going to take my firm to see this house. So me and Bernadette went to see this house, and she loved it. So as we pulled in the driveway, and she was saying, this is the house, you know, this is basically, we were just going through the house plotting on where we were going to put things at this point. And she told me, she gave me advice or wisdom on how to explain why Jonay didn't like the house. And I would have never thought about this. The elderly couple owned the house, and they had, you know, an elderly thing in the shower so they can sit in a rail by the bed. And she says this subconsciously reminded him of when his father was sick. And so he X this house out. And I was like, this is the weirdest thing ever. I'm going to tell him this. And when I said it to him, it was like, that's the truth. And he started to point out things in the house that I didn't even notice. You know, like they had a bar right here so he could pull up. And they had this, and I remember this in the hospital. So once that was cleansed from his mind, he was open to the house. Just ask the price. And so then she even went to tell us what to offer. She said, you're going to offer this amount, they're going to come back with this amount. You're going to offer this amount, they're going to come back with, I mean, like step by step. I love when the Lord does that, because you don't really have to guess about it, and, you know, all that. So we followed the plan perfectly, except for at the end, and they got silent. You know, the owners were like, because we went really low. Like we went, poor things. And so finally, after a week, and you know, Vern was just saying, be patient, you know, be willing to walk away. She was just telling us all that kind of stuff, but this is your house. Finally, they came back in a price that was right in the middle. Like if I wanted 80 and Joe, they wanted 90, they gave 85. Right in the middle of what we wanted, just like the last part of the prophecy that she gave us in January of 2017. And now it's 2018, and I'm greatly pregnant. And we're closing on the house in March, so we're trying to move and have a baby all at the same time. Just like, so it was a two-part prophecy, I guess. I was going to be pregnant and I was going to be moving, and all that just came to pass, just like God said. So the prophet spoke, and she's a true prophet, and you should sow into this ministry because it really helps you. Like I was telling Dr-Vernette the other day, people always ask, why, what do you attribute your life to? What do you attribute your successes to? Being connected to prophecy, being connected to having someone who can see into my life and be willing to follow directions, be willing, like, I just want to please you, God. What's the next step? That's all my business success, my personal success, it's all been connected to being connected to the prophet.
Yeah, and that's my testimony as well. And that's so they asked me, Auntie, what do you owe your, what would you attribute your success to? It's the ability to be able to hear from God, having powerful mentors, powerful prophets that can tell me you're sitting in a prophecy. This building, I mean, everything in my life I can name because of the word of the Lord. And it just made me successful. It kept me from disaster when the market was crashing, I mean, on down the line. God made sure I was in the right place at the right time. I could just go on and on and on. I'm sorry, you struck a nerve, Destiny. I feel that.